Well, people, it's funny because you preach the Bible, and sometimes even if you just preach that, murderers should be put to death, as the Bible says, that a murderer should be put to death. The Bible says that adulterers should be put to death. The Bible says that sodomites should be put to death. The Bible says that, all different things, kidnapping, that they should be put to death. They act like you're nuts or you're crazy or you know what I mean. Let me read for you. This is from a history book. Okay, listen, this is interesting. I just want to read this to you because it's interesting. This has to do with New Haven, Connecticut. Now, that was one of the early colonies. This is going back to 1639. So if you know history a little bit, you know that our country declared independence from England in 1776, right? And then, of course, the Constitution is 1787. But this country was already filled with people long before that. People started coming in the early 1600s. And the Americas were populated with people all throughout the 1600s and the 1700s, and they had governments. They just had individual governments. Like, they weren't all united. Massachusetts was a certain colony, and they had their own government, their own rules. Connecticut was there with the New Haven colony, and there was the, Virginia was there, and there were all different colonies with different governments and different rules. Well, listen to this. This is from a history book about New Haven, Connecticut, their judicial system. This is going back to 1639. And I'm quoting this author named Leonard Bacon, this history book. It says, "Notice how grave a change in respect to the inflicting of capital punishment is the death penalty, was made by adopting the Hebrew laws instead of the laws of England." Because remember, these people have come from England, right? And they decided, you know what? England's justice system's a little bit messed up. Let's go with God's law. Let's go with the Hebrew laws of the Bible. By the laws of England, more than 150 crimes were till quite lately punishable with death. Did you hear that? So in 1639, just shortly before that, in England, there were 150 crimes that had the death penalty. Now, is that biblical? No. The Bible has the death penalty for certain crimes, murder, rape, adultery, but it doesn't have the death penalty on 150 different crimes. But in England, it's like, you forgery, death penalty. You write a bad check, death penalty. I mean, I'm serious. Go back and research it. Stealing, death penalty. I mean, they have the death penalty on armed robbery. They have the death penalty on 150 different things. That's not biblical. And so it says that, in England, at the time, or around that time, there were 150 crimes punishable with death. By the laws which the New England colonists adopted, those in Connecticut and that area, the bloody catalog was reduced to 11. And listen to the list. These are the laws these are the crimes they still punish with death penalty. Murder, treason, perjury against the life of another. That's where you try to get someone else executed by lying under oath. That's biblical. So we've got murder, biblical, treason, perjury against the life of another, kidnapping, bestiality, sodomy, which is homosexuality, being gay, adultery, blasphemy in the highest degree, so straight out of Leviticus 24, idolatry, witchcraft, and rebellion against parents. Okay, did you hear that? Those were punished with the death penalty in this country. Okay? And they said, hey, we're going to tone things down from England where they're just putting you to death for too many things. Let's go with the Bible's law. So you look at the roots of our country and, I'm not insane for preaching that the death penalty is biblical. These people were saying, let's do everything the Bible said about it. Let's do it. And they did it. And they did it for hundreds of years. These laws were on the books. Of course, once, it became the United States, things were changed a little bit. But even when it became the United States, a lot of these things were still punished by the death penalty. Murder, and all these different, and there were many more. I don't know all the history on it, but isn't that interesting? And then it says, the greatest and boldest improvement which has been made in criminal jurisprudence by any one act since the Dark Ages was made by that which our colonial fathers, when they determined that the judicial laws of God, as they were delivered by Moses, and as they are offense to the moral law, shall be accounted of moral equity, and generally bind all offenders, and be a rule to all the courts. So this used to be considered normal. I mean, it was like, okay, God said that these people should be put to death. You know, that should be the law of the land. Now, obviously, we today, as Christians, we live under the laws of our land. We don't run this country. Have you noticed? You know, we're not running things. Obviously, we abide by the laws of the land. I'm not saying, you know, we're going to take it upon ourselves to set up this rule of law and we're going to start having tribunals and putting these people to death. Obviously, that's the government's job. In 1639, they had a righteous government with righteous laws. Today, we have an unrighteous government with unrighteous laws.